We're back with Jan Broberg-Felt. Jan will be the keynote speaker at the Women's Conference in Dixie, which is scheduled for Saturday, March 6th, beginning at 8 a.m. And you can buy your tickets at R&K's bookstore, the hospital, the extension service, the college through the Event Center, in Hurricane at Wells Fargo, and in Cedar City at Wells Fargo. I think I got them all. And if you have any questions about ticket sales, you can call 251-2222. And now we'll take the second segment of our show with Jan Broberg-Felt and learn a little bit more about her. She is a wonderful actress who we are so grateful that she's accepted the opportunity to speak at our Women's Conference. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you. I am excited as well.
Give us just a little bit of your background. Michelle introduced you in the first part of the show, but for those who may have just tuned in, tell us a little bit about who Jan Broberg-Felt is.
Well, let's see. Jan Broberg-Felt. I'm an actress, as you said. I've had some great opportunities, even here at Tuacahn and St. George Musical Theater. I've been able to do some acting there. My most current thing that you can catch me on the WB on Channel 12 on Monday nights at 8 o'clock. I play Nurse Louise on Everwood, the series Everwood, which is a great family show and really a lot of fun. I'm having a great time filming that. I have a lot of different films to my credit and some Disney Channel movies and things like that. I've also been speaking around the country doing some national child abuse conferences with my mother. She and I have keynoted at several national conferences as well as mental health conferences and some other things, so I'm excited.
I think that's a great lead-in to where part of your remarks from the Women's Conference will be directed. As I understand it, you have not had the easiest of lifetimes and have used, I think, every talent that you were blessed with to help you overcome some tremendous difficulties. And if you'd like to just maybe tell us a little bit more about your personal story and how that will be woven into your Women's Conference remarks, maybe give people a preview of the keynote address.
I'd be happy to. I actually, as a child at age 12, was abducted by a family friend, not only once but twice after he was released from jail. And it's a very, I don't know if you call it amazing or crazy story of brainwashing, mind control, child abduction, sexual abuse, those types of things that I went through and that my family went through in trying to locate me. And I will be sharing that story along with a PowerPoint presentation about brainwashing and about the story, mostly to educate other people. I was speaking at a national child abuse conference with Judge Charles Gill, who's a Superior Court judge in Connecticut. He was a keynote speaker one day and I the next. After he heard my address, he approached myself and my mother, who was getting ready to publish her book about the story called Stolen Innocence, and said, I want to do anything I can to lend credibility to this story. I've been working in this field with children, with pedophiles, with this type of thing for 30 years as a lawyer, as a judge. What can I do? Can I write the foreword to your book? Which he ended up doing, and the afterword. He said every person that has a child, that deals with children, or that may grow up to have children, ought to know this story so that they can learn from your experiences. They can learn from the mistakes that your parents made. They can learn the red flags that maybe are around them but they don't see, that they ought to be cautious, or that maybe something's happening to a child and they can't see it because they're not educated. We've been well educated, from Oprah to Dr. Phil, about the fact that these kinds of things happen, sexual and physical abuse and domestic violence and all those kinds of things. But we are not very well educated about the signs that go along with a person who's been brainwashed, who's experiencing mind control, anybody who's keeping a secret, who isn't telling, has been brainwashed. And my seminar and what I will be speaking about is my story and showing those kinds of signs to others to educate them so that they will do a better job, maybe, because they're smarter.
Right.
It's a hugely relevant theme.
It's exactly what I was going to say with the Elizabeth Smart situation. We have in Southern Utah our own polygamy situation.
Exactly.
Depending on where you are with that, many people, I do believe, think that that's a part of that culture. That what you're talking about is,
Absolutely.
and describing as a part of that culture.
Yes.
You've got the gal in Florida that was recently abducted.
Yes, what if she had been taught to scream and fight and run and kick and bite and yell?
Exactly.
Maybe she'd be alive.
She may be alive
Yeah.
today. So it's very timely, and I think we have time in today's interview, and I don't think it will detract from your presentation if you would just describe some of those signs. It could be very vital information for those who are watching. What are some of those signs?
The number one thing to remember is that usually it's not a stranger, okay? This, in our situation and in most situations like mine, and believe me, everyone has a story. After I keynote somewhere, I spend 2 and 3 hours talking to women who wait to tell me their story or to ask a question of me or my mother, who's a licensed social worker and has done great work with children in the state of Idaho, including creating a clearinghouse for missing and exploited children that did not exist in Idaho or Utah until 1996. I mean, these are things that we don't realize. There were no child abuse laws.
But we don't have...
Exactly, and we didn't have a lot of laws in the early 70s when my first abduction happened. So anyway, they're usually people that we know. That's first and foremost, that it's not a stranger. It's Uncle Harry. It's somebody we know.
A neighbor,
a friend, a father. It's somebody that we know. So that, first of all, is to see if a person is taking an extra unusual interest in your child or in your family even. That we have to remember we have a stewardship, and we don't step outside of that. And anytime we do, or anytime someone else does and comes into our circle in a way beyond just your normal, let's try and give a helping hand. I'm not putting down service. I'm saying that we need to recognize when it goes beyond the mark. That's the first red flag, that it's too much. It's too much interest. That's one thing. Another thing to recognize is, are there extra things being done that are lavished on you? I mean, most of these people, and certainly in my case, they are very good at flattery, at making you feel good. They know how to, you know, empathize with what your situation is, and they relate very well to children as well as to adults, and know just how to relate to each person. Maybe looking at that and saying, okay, now, there's too many gifts that are being given. There's too much time and attention being spent. There's too many things being shared that are personal. Those are signs.
Now, do you believe, I tend to be a very intuitive person, and I give a lot of credibility to my intuitive feelings, which can get me in trouble, has gotten me in trouble in the past, but hasn't enough times that I tend to lean that way rather than not lean that way.
Yes.
Do you, it sounds like as you describe these situations that it is a parent's intuitiveness that could kind of help guide them as they watch the interactions with adults who are interacting with their children, or is that fallible?
Well, of course it's fallible. Yes, I think it can be fallible, but I absolutely believe you have to go with your gut. That is your best barometer. There's another book out there that every person should read about fear. What is it called? Can't remember. The Power of Fear. That your gut instincts are more right. That intuition, that intuitiveness is something to definitely pay attention to. You must pay attention to it. And then find the facts to support that. You know,
that's great point.
You know, facts may come later. And that's why people say, well, what about, you know, I say, you're going to teach children faith, you better teach them facts and curiosity, you know. Teach them to question as well as to believe. We have to have a balance, and that's a lot of what my message is about, is how to educate ourselves so that we have a balance in what we're doing in our approach with people and how people interact with our children. Yeah, definitely. Go with your gut.
Now,